It's not about the Mets. Back in the medieval ages, many people dealt with things being flung at their heads willy-nilly. They were a bunch of rammy boys back then. So what did they do? Well, society decided the best option was to create the helmet, or our first hard hat. Now, while it was effective at blocking hammers, bows, arrows, it wasn't really attractive and didn't really show off a person's best features, so to speak. People would go back and forth for the next thousands of years, determining the best way to protect one's hat, to protect one's noggin. As modern society grew, the need for protection of one's scalp and forehead lessened, and hats became a symbol of status and fanciness. Take, for example, the top hat. Now, you may think that top hats were made from beaver fur and other such wool items. In fact, you are wrong. They used to be hunted. Yes, bowler hats and top hats were and are sentient creatures that have been killed and processed to cover our beautiful skulls. Now, I don't want to hear someone in the comments section saying, "Oh, that's wrong. We've hunted them to extinction." Guess what, pal? We've hunted plenty of other things to extinction. Do we miss them now? I'm just saying, what would you do if your car hit a dodo bird today? Now, back in the time of the rootin' tootin' cowboys, they would hunt on the back of their cows these fine furred Headular items. People would tell stories and over the campfire about how many hats they would have purchased and slain that day. In fact, you can see in this picture here too, in the 1886, there was the Great Hat Hunting Competition, where over 1,002 children and their parents were let loose upon a small flock of bowler and top hats. Later on, in the 1910s, people began synthecating and producing their own top hats without the need of killing the sentient creatures. But by that point, they had gotten to the point of near extinction. Thus, the need to make your own hat became the only real solution. We weren't in, like, medieval battles anymore. We were more into, slinging lead. The only need for a hat was to protect oneself from the sun and for fashion. Around this time, in the 1923, the Great Hat Expansion began. You would see many types of hats, some like this, some like that, some like this, some like this, and some like that. Some hats looked a certain way to fit a certain type of activity. Take, for example, this kind of hat. While it's not, by definition, what you would consider maybe a hat, it is a Headular item. Most things that cover your head, or most of your head, should be considered a Headular item. As I was saying before, certain hats were used for certain activities. This used to be considered a ski mask, but it doubles really well at robbing banks. Hats are also good for showing off your teams. It's about the Mets, baby! Let's go! It's all about the Mets! Whoa! If you're not ashamed of your own head, you don't need one. But most people have a low self-confidence and need to cover up bald spots, the fact that they're completely bald, and maybe that they just prefer a hat to not one. Let me call you about someone called Mr. Fugly Squiggleduck. This man was about 400 pounds south of obese. Large beyond your wildest dreams. Think of the largest person you know. Okay. Now triple it. Okay? Huge. This man was probably the largest man in living history that we know of. And the thing that made him even larger was his 16-inch long top hat that he wore on top of his head. This man was huge. An imposing figure. He ran for Congress in Southwest Wyoming. Where am I going with this? Shut up. Quiet, you. Senor Rupert Fugly Squiggledick. Duck. Sorry. I haven't filmed myself in front of a camera in a very long time, so please forgive me. Forgive me. Hats are an icon piece. Take Rupert Fugly Squiggleduck. He made a statement with his hat. A imposing, powerful image. Wouldn't you want that? Wouldn't you like to be the one person in the room that everyone's like, wow, look at how big his hat is? Hats are an addition. They're like the onions in a nice soup. They add flavor, they add pizzazz, they add chutzpah. They take your boring clothing, your boring wardrobe, and improve it. Don't take my word for it. Try it out. Get a hat, wear a hat. Just make sure that it matches what you're wearing. It's worse than like one of those bright, like sparkly hats. That's a bad kind of hat. I'm gonna just be real with you. You don't want your hat to look like a baby boy's hat. You know, something a child would wear. You don't want to be the little baby in the ballroom. You know, nobody's going to find that impressive. And granted, there are certain scenarios where you probably shouldn't be wearing a hat because the old people might look at you weird. But, you know what, Edith? You're about 3 steps away from the grave, so why don't you take 4 steps back? Hats can be used for different things. Protection from the sun. Looking straight up cool. Some people make modifications to their hats. They add fancy bits to show off their wealth, their taste, and some use it to protect themselves from the aliens. Take the cowboy hat, for example. Good lord, this concrete's hot. Take the cowboy hat, for example. Did you know that the cowboys actually got their names from the hat? These used to be called cowboys. I don't know why. What makes them seem like bovine and boys? It's kind of weird. They didn't actually get their name from rounding up cattle, but in fact, they're hats. Why are cowboy hats so unanimous with cowboys? Because cowboys are synonymous with cowboy hats. It's perfect logic. Just follow me here, okay? Now, the beauty and simplicity of a cowboy hat is the wide brim to protect oneself from rain, sun, and arrows. Now, we're not going to be talking about cowboys versus Indians and all that jazz, but what we are going to be talking about is how useful these are. One can use one to fans oneself, protects oneself from the sun, give a small gift to a child, maybe. You know, you could put a couple apples up in there. I feel like I can't. See, like I was saying before, different hats for different kinds of folks. I don't think cowboy hats necessarily fit my aesthetic. I prefer baseball caps. They tend to be very universal for me. Some look bad. This is not one of the better hats, because it's all about the Mets, baby. It's all about the Mets. Oh, I told you this before. Pre 9/11, people would make hats out of certain animals. For example, this beaver pelt hat. This is not a beaver. This is a raccoon. But what I want to say is that sometimes killing things results in cooler things. Remember, everyone, it matters not the size of the hat and the cowboy, but it matters the size of the cowboy and the hat. This is very heavy. All these hats on my head.